Yeah, that's for sure.
Chair thrown out of your head from Bobby Knight at this point would be amazing.
Yeah.
Coming down from heaven. That's not good. Nobody wants that.
No kidding. Yeah.
Legend, though. I remember when that happened. I remember going to school that day. I was in 9th grade, I think, or 4th grade. Somebody was like, Bobby Knight threw a chair out during the game. I'm like, what?
They still love him in Bloomington. Like it's
That's the guy you want, though.
They love his family. As a matter of fact, I think he lived in Bloomington when he died, right?
I think so. I think he was out that way. Yeah. So today we're gonna do. So last time when we were with you, we did like a whole episode. We're gonna go easy on you today. We're gonna put you in there, so it's not too much.
Well, you just tell me what to do.
But yeah,
that's the way I work it too, Jim. I just say, tell me what you want.
Yeah, that's what I tell my wife every day, right? So.
I don't like how I'm the wife in this scenario.
Well, she's great. She's good.
That gives you a lot of authority.
Yeah, right.
You should be happy.
No kidding.
We can use another analogy, hopefully. But yeah, and then we also have. It didn't get here, but we have a hat for you. It's not going to be this one, but one similar to it.
Cool.
Because you gave us hats last time.
Thanks. Yeah.
I was holding out hope that my order would get here on time, and I don't know if it's because of weather or not, but it has not been.
Well,
here.
You know what's funny, and I can even talk about it. So my referee, I work with Sean Hockley, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we did like a paintball thing. We were at Steelers mini training camp in August, and we played paintball.
Nice.
So he got these like replica. We took a picture at the end. He got these replica things that must have just come to the house today. They're really neat. He got them from like China. And my wife, she's like, "What's this?" She unpacked them. She showed me. She FaceTimed. It's really neat. So that was like a crew gift, for everybody in the crew. So, yeah.
Did you say Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was like in August. That didn't before the season started.
I lost tremendously a bet at the beginning of the year because I'm hard on the Steelers and Mike Tomlin because their whole thing is we can save that one actually. We'll save it because it'll be good to talk about that for on
the air
as we're recording. Yeah. So. Oh, sorry.
No,
I think I moved it away a little bit so I can lean in. I want to feel like I was like
You're here, back.
making out with a mic.
Not just any mic.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, Mike Tomlin. Jeez.
All right, I am rolling whenever you guys are ready.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to introduce this and then we'll be good to go. All right, and now we're joined by none other than NFL referee Jim Quirk. Recurring guest, by the way. So you're first recurring guest? Like first true blue recurring guest?
Yes. He's a pro. He's a pro now.
I feel honored, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, no, it's exciting. You're the bookends of our season. You're going to be, essentially, as long as you want to keep doing this, you're going to be the end of our season. Football season ends, you come in, and then we take our break for, until March. So
that works. There
you go. Yeah. Star guest.
Yes. Leads us into a temporary retirement. And then we get to come back.
I wouldn't say retirement. I would just say holiday, right? Or
okay.
break. That's all. I don't want people out there thinking that we're going anywhere because we're certainly not. But yeah, no, that's kind of changed since you were back with us. I think you mentioned before we started recording 50 episodes. You were our 50th episode. We're on 129 now. Mm-hmm. So hustling and bustling. Not quite like you though. You are probably looking forward to your break because you've been hustling and bustling 100 yards plus up and down the field for the last.
My off
8
season
months.
Started at like 10 o'clock last night when that game ended.
There you go.
So we're basically off the clock till May 15th. Nice. So I literally have a couple months to take a deep breath and we start up again in May.
Yeah. Any big plans for the period off?
No. But so the way it works is we're part-time. We're the only major sport that's not full-time. Like baseball, basketball, and hockey, that's all they do. So, this is called the dark period. So we really can't do anything. So, I've been I haven't gone to the gym in a couple of weeks. So this is like I take a month off. It's like I read something about Dirk Nowitzki years ago. He used to do that when basketball was over. He would just like step away. So that's my excuse. So I think I'm going back on the 18th, and then it'll slowly ramp up. And then May 15th is when we're back on the clock. So we'll have our physicals soon after that.
Nice.
And then it gets busier.
What does your workout regimen look like? I mean, you got to be in good shape.
Well, I'm not in as good a shape as I was when I got hired in 2010. But it's I know how much I weighed in 2010, and my big thing is you want to keep your weight somewhere in that area. I don't do a lot of strength training. I do some strength training, but not a lot. A lot of it's cardio. I ride my bike a lot. I'm trying to go to the gym a lot. So
But I think that the cardio is the most important
It
part.
is.
Right? 'Cause
It is.
These guys are fast.
Well, it's weird. So I don't know if I told you guys last time I was here. We had our mechanics was they did a thing called Move with a Purpose, which means we really didn't move much, which was great for the older guys. But now we're back to moving again. So you do have to make sure you don't get beat. You don't get beat too deep. Too badly on deep passes. Like there was a play in the game yesterday, and Jonah Monroe was the back judge, and it was a long. It was I think it might have been the only Chiefs long
worthy
the number one,
yeah.
And if you watch the replay, Jonah was right there. I mean, now he's younger than I am, but he's a back judge, and that's you want to try to be in the vicinity, which he was in good position.
Yeah.
You want to try to run with Xavier Worthy.
You want to try, but
140.
you have a 25-yard head start, so that helps a little bit, right?
Don't know how much, but yeah, certainly. But speaking of last night's game, or the Super Bowl, right? Because it's coming out Friday. So speaking
Oh,
of,
sorry.
no, that's on me too, because we do it too. It's definitely not on you. Trust me.
Okay.
But no, yeah. So speaking of the Super Bowl, right? You guys got to be happy. Well, sad and happy, right? Like sad because your team lost, right? Big Chiefs, refs Chiefs, big fan.
According to whom? Yeah.
but also happy that there's no controversy other than that one OPI call, which I didn't think there was much controversy.
Early
on.
on, so I don't really text too much during the game, but my kids were. So our youngest goes to Mizzou, University of Missouri. So they're all Chiefs fans there. So she was out. She's like, I'm surrounded by Chiefs fans. So they're asking me questions during the game, and my big thing is if I say no comment, they can probably figure out that I wasn't too fond of whatever happened.
Yeah.
But people were asking me who I was rooting for. I'm like, I'm just hoping the officials sort of stay under the radar.
Wink, wink, right?
And that,
wink, yeah.
That's sort of what happened. I mean, that's sort of what happened, like you said. And in a blowout, people don't care about the officiating. If it's a close game, like the last time those two teams played, if you remember in the Super Bowl,
the holding penalty.
The holding penalty,
yeah.
And that was, the Chiefs ran the clock down and kicked a field goal and won the game. So that's what you sort of don't want.
Yeah.
Right or wrong, you just don't want to be involved in something that high pressure. I'm sure those guys, when they left the field, they're like, wow, I worked the Super Bowl, it's pretty cool, but it was also less pressure because it wasn't a close game.
Yeah.
Well, can you comment on that one? I thought it was a no-brainer. He touched the face mask. I feel like if it were the reverse, the defensive player does that, then it's automatic.
Yeah, I think because that's my position. So the guy who threw that flag, this is I think his fourth Super Bowl. He's a veteran.
Okay.
It's my position, but I think the fact that the guy stumbled a little bit, because I think Pereira came on first. Pereira is the rules expert for Fox. He came on. He didn't like it when he first came on.
Yeah.
Then they went to commercial, and I guess what happens, and this is public knowledge. He talks to New York, so he talked to the officiating department. And they told him what they thought was called, and he came back after commercial, and that's what he said. He goes, well, the guy hit him in the face mask, so I think that made it a little bit easier.
Yeah, he didn't. Well, first of all, he called New York, and New York said, you better change it.
Those guys are they're autonomous, and they do. We have so Walt Anderson was our boss the year before last, I guess, and his job I think now is he's like a liaison with the media. Yeah. So they have a direct line. So so again, they don't always agree with him, but he tells them why it was called, and then they make. And I think Mike Pereira changed his tune a little bit. He said, I can see why they called it.
Yeah.
Whereas before that, he said it was a bad call.
To me, it was the pushing back of his head, like the defender's head. So he basically lost eyesight and coordination. So it was more influential than it looked.
It helped. Yeah. So those receivers are so good. They know what they're doing. Yeah. I mean, especially the offensive guys, when they push off a little bit, they get a little bit of separation. That's all they need. And so I'm watching the game, and I generally don't go to Super Bowl parties. I sit in my basement. As you know, you don't want to watch a game with a coach or an official because people don't want to hear it, right?
Yeah. Well, that's why people don't want to watch with us. That's
that's the excuse, right? That's what they tell us at least. So so I'm watching it, and I saw Boris throw his flag. He was the guy that threw the flag, and right away I said OPI. And I didn't see the replays at that point.
Slow down
but I knew exactly, when you see anything like that and you see a flag come out, you know what he's calling. And then they showed 10,000 different angles, and people said what they want about it. But like I said, those receivers are good, especially on there was an emphasis this year, a point of emphasis on offensive pass interference. So they had one or two pick plays. One of them called back a touchdown.
I did not like that one personally.
Well, I mean, again, they know what they're doing. So, we're not there to judge intent, but they know what they're doing. And we've watched enough film and we know, what formations lead to what type of fouls. And so that, right or wrong, that's sort of how we look at things.
You didn't like the one on Juju?
No, I thought like
He leaned into the dude.
Is that when he knocked the guy was chasing the receiver?
Yeah.
And he knocked him off.
And he kind of leaned into him with his shoulder.
Yeah,
I mean,
it wasn't. It
he
was.
wasn't doing something to get open.
Yeah.
Yeah, but out of all the blatant ones we've seen, and we've seen some pretty bad ones, right? Like that one wasn't that bad. Also, again, this is anti what I say in basketball, right? Like, don't ref the score. Like that was like, I was like, come on, like who cares at this
Well,
point?
so I was. We went to my wife's college roommate's house. There were like I don't know 7 of us there, and we were talking, and something happened, and it was late in the game, and I said we have something called time and score. So if something happens that is probably a foul, if we write it up and say time and score, that sort of gets us off the hook.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
So
whatever
that's
worth.
real?
It is real.
That is real. There you go.
Yeah, because
now we know.
Yeah. I mean, again, it depends on the situation and the score, but essentially that is like a known fact that they don't want you calling fouls with they don't want you calling 12 men on the defense with a minute left in the game when the offense is going to kneel down.
Yeah.
Even though it's a foul,
Yeah.
you write up time and score. So that's the kind of stuff.
I always found that to work the opposite. Like when we were winning handily, they would start calling fouls that, why? Because we're winning by 25 points? I mean,
I don't know. I can't speak. And basketball is tough. We've talked about that. Basketball is tough, and that. So that's another thing. This whole Chiefs controversy, right? They're like, oh, the officials favor the Chiefs. I'm like, even if we wanted to, it'd be very difficult. It's not like basketball.
Oh, there's no team and time of season designation? I thought that like your time and score team.
No team involved, no colors, home team. What stadium you're in.
That's what I was going to use for the Cowboys too. We always get screwed.
No. Again, I can't comment on that. But like I said, it's really hard in football. Whereas in basketball, you could call a foul, get a guy to the foul line. Yeah. They score a point, whatever it may be. You can't do that in football. I mean, half the time we don't even know the score. We know the players. Like I'm watching the A.J. Brown thing right now that we're talking about. Yeah. So that's what I mean. It's hard in football if we wanted to influence things, and we're not influencing. But it's crazy when you look on the internet. People send me articles about stuff. There was an article last week that said 2 of the guys on my crew were on the AFC Championship game, the Chiefs Bills game, right?
Yeah.
And somebody put something out in the article that all 7 officials were suspended, and the Bills might have a chance that Goodell might like change the score of the game. Somebody photoshopped it. It was not true, obviously. But my point is, people conspiracy theories are pretty popular.
So I
on the
guess,
internet.
is there like a feeling amongst the refs? Like we talked about this last time, right? Like you guys do your best, or you guys do a great job. No biases in there. Like even this, like you can't comment on certain things. Even around family, you're very good. Like you just said, you text your girls, no comment when things come in. But like when stuff like that happens, is it like? Do you ever get the sense that, like, oh well, if it's close, like I'm not going to call for the Chiefs because I don't want to hear about it.
No, I mean, so you try not to let that influence you. Now, again, some coaches will try to plant that seed.
Us, like, never.
No. I went to a locker room, and I won't tell you which coach it was, but I went in before the game because I always go to the visiting team's locker room. So they were playing in Kansas City, so you could probably figure out when I was in Kansas City. But in any event, the coach said to me, hey, watch number 15, meaning Mahomes. He likes to, take a dive, is what he basically said. And we all, people sort of. So he the reason he said that was, he wanted us to be aware of it, but he also wants you to plant the seed so if that happens, you might flash back to that.
Yeah, that's
I
interesting.
absolutely 100% use that tactic several times.
Absolutely. I was going to say, as a coach,
Well, especially on things like I know if we're in a close game, we might be doing certain things on our presses or our press breakers. And one of the things I would always say, hey, when we have the ball out of bounds and the player reaches across the end line, that's a technical foul.
Yes.
Yes. That kind of thing. And I plant it, and then inevitably, when that moment happened, might get it.
Maybe. And the thing about it is, like, we go into the locker room, we ask the coaches, we say, hey, do you have any strange formations or any plays that might catch us off guard? And we do that for our own benefit.
Just like they give you their playbook and they're like, yes, here it is. Study up
I can tell you stories about that, but not on the air.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Bills, the Chiefs game a little bit. Like, obviously, a lot of controversy from there. The spot foul, the Xavier Worthy catch, things that I actually don't really see it that much. And I mean, you can consider me biased. I was totally against the Bills on that one because I wanted to see the three-peat. But there were a lot of issues stemming from that game, and a lot of it comes from immediately after. I forget what the tag was, but like NFL is going to look into like extending like replay reviews or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, I wonder why. Like, what happened?"
It's,
right?
it's a
like,
slippery slope. I mean, so they've talked about, this year we did replay assist, where if we messed something up, replay would get in our ear and tell us, and we'd fix it right away, just to expedite things. So, but it's a slippery slope because if you get them involved in too much,
right?
Remember the year after the NFC Championship game, whatever year that was, that call in New Orleans?
Yes.
The next year, pass interference was reviewed.
Yeah, that was terrible.
It was
terrible for the
exactly.
league. Yeah.
So again, in the off season, you talk about the off season. They have the competition committee, I guess, next month in March, and they talk about new rules and things, and they'll talk about that. There'll be some things that might be reviewable that weren't last year. The one thing I was telling someone last night was the spots, right? So. We have, you guys have probably heard of next gen stats, right? They do all the stats. So there'll be, in the old days, if there was a punt that went out of bounds, I'd put my hand up, I'd walk up, and the referee would chop me and say, hey, and the ball went out of bounds on the 45.
Yeah.
So we did that one game, and then in my ear, they're like, it went out on the 42, because they know there's a chip in the football. For
there is a chip in the
that's
football.
amazing.
There is.
Why don't they use that for first
Because
down?
I'm not an expert, but I think it's not perfected for that type of thing. Now it may be soon, but for something like that, it's precise enough where they use that.
Does that chip also measure ball pressure?
We do that. Okay. We have a machine.
Well, I mean with the chip itself.
No, it doesn't. But it doesn't. We have a machine now because of that whole Deflategate thing.
Yeah.
We have a machine where we measure ball pressure. We have to write down the number of the balls and the PSI.
Wow.
And then sometimes they will have random checks at halftime. Where they'll go. So when I was in Kansas City for the divisional game, I was an alternate, and Chiefs won. Right, they beat Houston. And after the game, I was the kicking ball guy, so I was responsible for the kicking balls. So the Kansas City ball boy comes up to me. He said, "Hey, Harrison Butker likes to know the pressure of the ball when the game ends. Can I test him?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So there were 13 PSA when we started, and then whatever he put his little thing in. He checked every one of them just to tell Butker. I guess he's superstitious to see how much pressure he lost during the game. Yeah.
I mean, he's the NFL's most accurate kicker now.
I was going to say
maybe
that's
someone's working for him. Yeah,
the science of kicking field goals.
That's it is certainly really crazy. So, I mean, are you like pro for, mentioned like it's a slippery slope, but, the XFL tried that like third or that sky ref basically. I know we kind of talked about it last time you were here, but like it seems like with all this, there's two things that I'm a proponent for you guys, right? One, full-time just makes sense for you guys. That way, you can focus on it, and that way you are backed by, the NFL itself instead of just being like, oh, well, it doesn't matter because I know like Ed Hockley was a lawyer or something like that. It doesn't matter that he was a lawyer. He'd still get ripped apart by people like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah. I'm willing to bet he does, not speaking as a, former law school grad or anything at all. But, like that's like, what is the proponent? Full-time, extra left? Like, what would you like to see, I guess, if you could say what you would like to see at all?
So the last couple of years they've brought replay in a lot more, which I think is helpful. So we have a crew of 7 on the field, right? Then we have 2 guys upstairs, and they're part of our crew, and they bail us out, and they're part of the crew. So I think getting them involved is important, but again, it's also the kind of thing where like sometimes New York is in their ear, New York is in our ear, so sometimes they sort of override what the replay guys say. But I think replay is a big help. There was a play in the Super Bowl where I don't know who was it. It was 83 on the Eagles. We thought he scored a touchdown,
Dotson,
right?
Yeah.
But when I saw it, I said he's down at the 1.
Yeah.
As an official, you know that. And sure enough, they gave him a touchdown because I think if you give him a touchdown, that gets replay involved. If you don't give him a touchdown, then they have to challenge.
Right.
So in any event, they gave him a touchdown, but the replay came in and said no, he was short. It might have been an assist. I can't remember if they went to the tablet or not. Because they went to a commercial, I think.
It was a scoring. I think it was a scoring play review.
Yeah.
That's why the ultimate, like, you can almost tell immediately that was going to get reviewed. Though I kind of like that though, and is that something you guys defer to? Like, if it's close, you guys let it go and like touchdown.
Their
like,
philosophy.
Right,
so,
anyway.
for example, something like that, if you put him in the end zone, then you get replay involved. But if you put him down on the 1. He's down on the 1. Let's say he was in, and you put him down on the 1.
Yeah.
He's down unless they challenge.
Right.
And so
that actually favors coaches. You kind of help the coach out.
There are different philosophies. I mean, it's almost like late in the game, if you have a play on the sideline, if you're not, and it's not really generally my call, but if you're not sure if the guy's inbounds or out of bounds, if you were to stop the clock, but let's say he was down in bounds, that would involve, if replay got involved, it's a 10-second runoff. There's all kinds of ramifications. So again, there are different philosophies in that situation. You want to do the right thing. If you have a clear view, you do what you think you saw. But if you're not sure, there are things that you can defer to get to get replay involved.
When you defer to giving touchdowns, awarding touchdowns, because we talked about a lot about the Chiefs, but the Eagles, we haven't even talked about the NFC Championship game yet, where the ref came on and said they keep doing that. We're going to award a touchdown.
You want to hear a funny story?
Yeah,
he's my referee. That's Sean Hockley. He's really good. His father was Ed Hockley.
Yeah.
So and I was sitting at my parents' house. I'm watching the game with my parents, and I saw, and Washington was smart because every time they did it, it was only like 6 inches.
Yeah.
So I said, there's something in the rule book called a palpably unfair act. I said, that's a palpably unfair act. And then Pereira came on, and he used the same term. And then Sean got on and said, if you do it again, we can award a touchdown. Because it's analogous to a guy, let's say someone's running down the sideline, and somebody comes off the sideline and makes a tackle. That guy would have had a touchdown.
Yeah.
So you can award a touchdown. So it's the same idea. So we were busting Sean's chops on a group text after the game. We're like, I bet you couldn't wait to say that because he was correct. He was 100% correct.
It's like one of those things where for years and you're just like, I can't wait to use it.
It's like a test question.
Exciting.
It's a test question. You see it all the time, but it never happens in a game. Yeah.
I thought it was a little unfair in that case, though, because if you watch Jalen Hurts' motion, like he's staggered stance and his right leg is kind of pumping, which almost to me simulates like a snap.
It's so hard. I mean, so that whole tush push thing. I remember when Jason Kelsey was the center for the Eagles, he had to wear like a black glove, and let's say his guards wore a white glove because they wanted to make sure you knew the guards were not lining up offside. Because every little thing, even in the game last night, the long snapper, I think they hit him.
Lovato,
Yeah, he's from Middletown.
Yep.
He's a local guy.
Yeah.
His uncle was my former boss.
Was he really?
Yeah.
I think his aunt was like my daughter's kindergarten teacher at
that
home
right?
or something. Yeah.
Local kid, yeah.
He's a really good guy. I talk to him when I can, but I think they hit him twice last night for
Snap infractions.
Snap infractions, yeah. Which is so, and a lot of it is scouting. If you see, because they're not dumb. They know. So Quentin Nelson, right, who's a home dog guy.
Yeah.
I joke because we've seen tapes where he'll like make a fist, right? And you think it's innocuous, but he's doing it because the defensive guy might jump.
Yeah.
So they know what they can do. They know until you bang them, and then they don't do it again.
Yeah.
But there are little things like that. So like you said, Hurts' stance and that tush push thing. We thought last year they might outlaw it for this last season, and they didn't.
Yeah.
But it's hard to stop, obviously.
Well, you had last night, Jones came out and he was banged up from that.
Yes.
So
I don't know what he
I guess, is that what it's going to take for them to review or to stop the tush push?
It's tough. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do.
I always say the best way to stop it, and this is 100% going to lead to injury, so I'm not a proponent for it, but the only way I see for stopping it is lining up exactly the same. So, like, have a linebacker under, like, the nose guard, or, like, the tackle or whatever, going up against the center. At that point, you're just, like, headbutting each other, which, again, unsafe. But it's probably the only way you can stop it.
It's that,
so.
it's leverage, it's rugby, whatever they can do. I'm sure they've tried to dissect it, try to figure out how to stop it, but it's hard.
But I've always had a question from this, and I don't think I asked it last time, and that's on me, obviously. But it's one that I have always had a problem with, just the push in general. Obviously, there's a forward momentum rule in the NFL, and for me, I just don't understand why me pushing somebody else is a continuation of their forward momentum. Like, isn't it stopped? Like, if they got meet in the middle and they're stopped, and you see it with running backs all the time, like linemen come from like 5 yards back and push the pile like 20 more yards, like
or pick them up and carry them back.
Right? Yeah, we've seen that a few times. Like, why isn't that like forward momentum stopped?
It's really
like
weird.
Down?
So you can push, but you can't pull. So to use your example,
Yeah.
if you pull a guy across the goal line, that's technically aiding the runner. That's a foul. But the push thing, it works. They know it works, so they just keep pushing the pile if they can. Again, I don't make the rules. We just sort of enforce them. But as of now, it's permitted to do that, to push, and they take advantage of it.
Even if you see like their feet, like
Yeah,
in the
we've
air,
seen
like
that. Literally, the guy
like a
looks-
Flintstone type of thing.
So
like-
it's weird because I'm not a line of scrimmage guy, but it's funny you say that because I've heard line of scrimmage guys talk about that. When the guy's feet are off the ground, then it's dead.
Yeah.
So at that point, I think my understanding is the play's dead at that point.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, his feet are still on the ground and they're just pushing him.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's hard to tell too because when you have like 50 guys,
There's a bunch of people. It's a
like
scrum.
22 guys
It's
like in a scrum. Like
Yeah.
you can't see
Yeah.
whose feet are whose. But
Yeah,
like,
I know.
you
It's like I said, it's all philosophies. I was talking to someone last night. They're asking me, the woman was from Ireland, and she's asking me, she's like, how big is the rule book? I said, well, the rule book's whatever, but there's a philosophy book that's just as big. I said, it's all about philosophies like that.
Yeah.
What do you let them get away with and what's not permitted?
Does that philosophy change game to game?
It shouldn't.
Shouldn't.
During the season, we get memos every week. During the season, they may say, okay, we want this handled differently, or this is the point of emphasis. And a lot of that comes from, what happens in games, or what happens from what the commissioner wants, or what the competition committee wants. But yeah, it shouldn't change. But who knows? Like I said, it's as you know, philosophies. They tend to sometimes. I don't want to say they override the rule book, but they do take precedence over some of the. Like someone said to me, "Couldn't you call holding in every play?" I'm like. People say that, but and I guess you could, but I'm not going to call holding on the backside of a play that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
call it at the point of attack.
Right.
Also, like, who would want to watch football at that
Yeah,
point?
they don't watch us. They don't come to watch us.
It's a delicate balance. You got to keep that. Do you think, given as much as they protect quarterbacks today, there ever be a time where they review roughing the quarterback? Because last night. Mahomes
Sunday,
just
man, come on.
I'm sorry. The Super Bowl. In the Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl 59,
In the Super Bowl, Mahomes just got throttled and then a mush in the face, and I felt like he should have probably been sent to jail, the guy who beat him so bad.
My mother-in-law, who knows nothing about football, she sent me a text. And it started with the letters WTF. Yeah, we all know what that means. Yeah. And it was all about that play. And it's my mother-in-law, who's 81 years old. Yeah. So that's what you're talking about. I don't know. There's been talk about like egregious face masks that guys miss. Yeah. Maybe that could be reviewable. I don't know. But yeah, again, as I said, it's a slippery slope where if you start to review certain things. So put it this way. The only thing that's reviewable now in a quarterback is if the referee says he was hit in the head and he wasn't.
Oh, really?
Replay can take us off of that foul if he's hit in the head. But you can't do the reverse.
Can't do the
reverse. The replay can't create a foul. But
so
they can.
I know what your counterpart put in his notes then. Time and score.
Time and score.
I don't remember what the score was when that happened.
See, it was a lot to a little.
Yes.
But the other thing is, I was telling someone this last night, there's no such thing as time and score when it comes to safety fouls. So if you call that a safety foul, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So that's
he got mangled.
Again, I generally don't go to parties, and like I said, we were at someone's house last night. There were like 7 people there, so I didn't really watch the game the way I normally do. I did tape it, and I will watch it. Yeah. But
you watched that one. He was
I've heard
not treated
a
well.
few times.
Time and score, it didn't matter. I mean, other than safety, like you said, it didn't matter. I mean, the season seemed not to be too controversial, though. I mean, there were some fun parts of it. Like, I don't know if you remember, we talked about the fair catch free kick last time. You were talking about, and we saw one of those in the game.
Yes.
I don't know if you were watching that game. You thought about it.
You know what's so funny? I was. It was like a Thursday night game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Thursday night football.
I wasn't watching. You know what I was doing? I was playing. I think my kids might have been home for one of the holidays.
I think it was around Christmas time. Yeah,
we're playing a game, and my phone's blowing up, and all the guys were texting about this fair catch because again, it's a rules thing. It's a thing you see on your rules test. You never see it happen. And sure enough, after it happened, I watched it. Like we have this on our computers. We can watch like every play of every game. So I said, okay, when was it? And I went to that and I watched it, but I did not see it live. Yeah. But the guys on my crew are excited.
Only guys who, like old school guys who understand. So it was very appropriate. It was Jim Harbaugh, right? Who wasn't either.
I believe it was Jim Harbaugh.
You expect Bill Belichick to do that?
Yep.
Yeah, Chargers. Yeah. That's why it made me think. I was Jim or John. Which one is it? But it was Jim. Yeah, 100%.
You'd be amazed. I mean, like he knows the rules, like you said, old school guys. But I bet you there are some coaches that don't know they could do that.
Yeah.
They need to hire me because we talked about that. I was just like, I was excited. The minute that punt went up, I was like, fair catch, free kick, and then it was called. I jumped out of my seat in excitement. I was like, nobody ever calls that. And, I'm an avid Madden guy, and every time like towards the end of the half and like a kickoff is like, I'm like, I just wish there was a fair catch, free kick button because I'd love to try that.
Well, maybe they can create that. Put that in. Maybe you can get some royalties on that, right?
You got us here. EA, listen, put it in the game. But as I was saying, not a lot of controversies in this season, which is a good thing, right? Outside of, again, you guys allegedly being on the Chiefs payroll. That's the last joke, I swear. That's the last joke, I swear. But there was one, and last time we gave you a bunch of controversial calls, and you made right or wrong calls on them, and then the Dez catch you were still wrong on. But like did he catch it? Did he catch it?
So one of the guys last night, he told me he's a Cowboy fan. So I said, "Do you remember that?"
Yeah.
And I said to him, in those days, Dean Blandino was in charge. He was correct saying it wasn't a catch. But again, philosophy-wise, it might be a catch today.
Oh, see, that's different. You said it wasn't a catch last time.
But Dez played how many years ago? It wasn't a catch when he did it, But again, it's
Technically, it wasn't a catch.
Yeah. So there's, as you know, there's different elements that constitute a catch, and he,
That's a
didn't,
question.
he didn't survive the ground, right?
I told you last time. I'm going to tell you again. That's a question you'll get every single time until that's just a yes. All
That's
right?
okay.
So
Well, I'll remember that. I'll remember that.
But other things that were I guess debatable this season, starting with the 1 foot down twice equals 2 feet.
Yeah.
Like, how do we feel about that going like that next year? Like, it's your call.
That's another test question.
Yeah.
Like, we know that that's not a catch, right? And so we've never seen it. It happened this year.
I think it happened like 3 times.
I don't know if
this
they're
year.
going to change
Crazy.
that because I mean everyone knows you got to get 2 feet or a body part down.
Yeah.
So the same foot doesn't count. So,
But a shin is 2 feet, and a knee is 2 feet,
I know.
and an elbow
Hey,
is 2 feet.
yeah.
But 1 foot down twice is not 2
like
feet.
I said, I don't make the rules, and that. So I don't know if I mentioned this. last
Philosophy
time.
thing.
It's a philosophy, but I don't know if I mentioned this to you. You can actually suggest rule changes. You could write to the commissioner on Park Avenue and say that.
Oh, like weekend?
You can. Anybody can. Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah.
I'm gonna write
Do
something.
it.
Great.
Goodell and I are gonna be pen pals in
He's
about
very
5
distracted
seconds.
now.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give the address. I'll give
There
you
we
his.
go. I'm ready
you know,
for it.
I probably have his email somewhere.
You got his
You wanna send
number?
me-
I
don't have his
I
number.
just want to
no.
call. Hey, Raj, it's Nick.
Well, you want to hear a funny story? So I told you Sean Hockley is my referee, right?
Yeah.
So we had the Giants in Munich. They played Carolina in November.
Yeah.
So
What a game
That was a somebody has to win game.
I think that was
At that time, yeah, Carolina was not as good as they were.
and
towards
that
the
was
end of the
Daniel
year.
Jones' last game because I think they
Yep.
cut him right after
Yeah.
that. Right?
Yep.
So Goodell was there, right? He's walking around the field, and he ran into Sean. And he made a comment to Sean like, "Hey, are you going to make a penalty announcement in German?" And Sean hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
So he comes back to the locker room, and he asks the locker room guy, "How do you say false start and holding in German?" So the guy told him those two things. And then, like in the second quarter, I think we had a false start finally. And he got on the mic and he announced it in German, and the crowd went nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a viral moment of
Yeah.
the year
Oh, yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Him breaking down German.
That's
Exactly.
a great touch, like customer service touch, but it's also a very slippery slope.
Well,
If you
So
say that-
someone's got to do it in Gaelic next year when they're in Dublin or something like that.
but
and,
if you're off just a little bit,
well, that's why we were joking because the locker room guy was really nice, and he wouldn't have steered him down the wrong path. He obviously told him what to
could've.
say. He
Yeah.
could have. He definitely could have. Yeah.
instead of false start, you could have said false teeth.
yeah, that would have been really funny.
Yeah.
Oh,
But so my
yeah.
point was that story is, I think the commissioner like texted Sean after the game and said, "Good job." So he might have his phone number.
All
But
right.
I don't
Yeah,
have his phone number. Yeah.
So we need to, you need to get that number for us. That way we can call Raj.
I don't know if I can do that. I might lose my job by doing that.
So, like, before you retire, just be like, hey, just so I can text the commissioner, and then you can send it to us, and it'll be fun. I guess the last thing that I have, actually, I have two more things because you're an official. We're going to have you officiate a debate we had on Thanksgiving. But the last thing I have is the biggest rule change I think for this year had to be the kickoff.
Yeah.
How did you guys like it as referees? Did you think it was better? Not so much appealing. I don't really think it was appealing as a fan. But like, did you guys think it was better not only for player safety, for the rules of the game? And do you see anything big like that coming? Obviously, it's the season just ended, so like you're not thinking about next year. You're in your 2 weeks off mode or a week off until you're in your Dirk Nowitzki mode. I'm in my Luka mode. I'm out of shape. That's why nobody wants to trade for me. But like,
Except the Lakers. Right?
yeah. But like, do you see anything like that coming down for
Well,
next year?
so that kickoff rule is a 1-year experiment. Now, people don't know that. So it'll come back next year. They may tweak it a little bit.
Okay.
And there were two reasons they did it. One was for safety, so the guys aren't running down the field, and one was to get more action. So in last year's Super Bowl, not this week's, but there were 13 kickoffs, and every one of them was a touchback. So that's what spurred the whole thing. So they thought they'd get more run-backs. Now, I think it went up a little bit, but not much. Yeah. And so I think what they might do is maybe they'll say, okay, if you want a touchback, the ball's going to go to the 35 or the 40.
Wow.
And maybe that.
So just moving up the touchback. That's like the new thing.
Yeah. So I don't know what they're going to do, but it was a 1-year experiment, and they're going to have to tweak it because
I miss the onside kick though too. It's
Well,
like completely ruined
why do
that
you
part
have
of
to
the game.
announce
you have to announce it, and I think the success
Fourth quarter
rate,
only. You have to be down in
you
the
have to be
fourth
you
quarter
have to
and
be
you have
down
to announce it.
exactly. And I think the success rate was like 9% this year. We had 3 or 4 of them during the year, but you have to announce it, and it takes
That
the
takes
surprise
all
out
the
of it.
coaching out
I
of it.
know.
The surprise. I mean, that's like Colonel Custer saying, "Hey, I'm going to be at the bottom of this hill just to let you guys know."
Yeah.
Yeah, I said it would have been fun to see last night, like in third quarter, like again, game out of hand, but like Andy Reid just surprise onside kick in the
Yep,
third quarter
I know.
after you score.
Well,
Why not?
Peyton did that in the Super Bowl. Sean Payton,
Yeah.
for the Saints,
Coming out of
coming
halftime,
at
yeah.
halftime,
Half, yeah.
exactly right. Yeah.
And that's an element of surprise.
It
It's
is.
a great coaching move.
It is, yeah.
Gamble, but it
Yeah.
worked out well.
Yeah, but you can't do that anymore. Again, it's all about the safety because with the onside kick, a couple of years ago, we changed the formations where you could only have 5 guys on one side. They used to load up one side and they'd go down there, and that was a safety thing. So they got rid of that, and now they got rid of the surprise. So they're really just trying to make it safe, and because of that, it's not effective.
I question some of the safety element, the logic behind it with waiting for the guy to catch the ball before you can take off. I mean, but as fast and as powerful these guys are, it doesn't take them long to get a full head of steam.
Yeah.
So within 10 yards, they're going.
It's weird. So it's really hard on us because, as you said, people can't move. Neither team can move till the ball's touched, right? So when we're watching, we found it was really hard to see when the guy caught the ball and when the guys were moving. So we came up with a thing where Sean, our referee, would say touch when the ball was caught or when the ball hit the ground. So when he said touch, if a guy moved before he said touch, it made it a lot easier for us. So, it is, it took a while to get used to. Like the preseason, the first couple of the weeks of the season, the players didn't really know what they should or shouldn't do. But now, it's been around long enough. And like I said, they'll probably tweak it. I think the special teams coaches came up with this because, what I heard through the grapevine was that they wanted to get rid of the kickoff, and if you think about it, that's a third of
special
what
teams did.
No, the league.
Oh,
The league.
say,
Yeah.
oh boy,
That's a third of what the special teams coaches
Yeah.
do. They do kickoff, return, punt, return, field goal, block.
Yeah.
So if you take kickoffs out of the game, that's 2 of the 6 things
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Pretty
think
crazy.
they're the ones that kept it alive, and even though it was different, they kept it alive. Yeah.
Why mess with a brilliant thing? I mean, we talk about
The
this all the
only
time. Football is they got it right. The NFL has it right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet they're always tweaking.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, they're
Yeah.
going to kill the golden goose.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, people say that with they're protecting the quarterback, obviously, which the quarterbacks, they're the money makers and they have to protect them. But some of the old school players don't like the fact that the quarterbacks get special treatment. So you're right. They do sometimes they tweak things and they try to have a balance between safety, keep it competitive. They probably had 150 million people watch the game yesterday. So whatever they're doing, they're doing
it's not
right.
hurting,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not hurting their pocket. So like at the end of the day, you're right. It's almost irrelevant that we're asking them to not tweak the kickoff. Although if they are going to allow more onside kick attempts or like a chance to get the ball back when you're down or something like that, I'm all for the XFL rule. Again, not a whole lot of good thing came out of the XFL, but 2 things. The third ref, I think, or the Sky ref, I think, could be beneficial to you guys. And I would like to see like if you in order to get the ball back, go for it on like 4th and 20. I think it was because I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Because it gets the offense back in it and. You can always try something new, and I can only imagine what Ben Johnson would draw up for something
Yeah,
like that.
you could be creative, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Jim, you guys are plugged into each other throughout the game because you mentioned Hockley saying touch, so
Yep.
you can
yeah.
hear him say
So
that.
we have these. They're called O2Os. It stands for official to official. They're earpieces. So one channel has we can hear all 7 of us can hear each other, plus the replay guys, plus we can hear New York. But then there's a separate channel that only the referee has where he can hear New York. So so basically it is good. So a lot of times you'll hear guys say like if there's a spot, one guy will say I got him down here. You got to move back. So it does help you communicate. We joke because sometimes if the technology goes out, it's like old school officiating. You're like you got to go back to what you did when
Smoke
you
signals?
Yeah. Well, when you didn't have those things,
Yeah.
those advantages. So
Is
it's,
that why every now and then there's like this obscenely late flag that pops out of nowhere and somebody says, "Yo, you missed that one"?
Sometimes, so the good thing is we can collaborate. So I was watching a game, I forget, which was early on in the playoffs. I was watching it, and I was wondering why the officials were taking so much time to mark off whatever the foul was. It's because I think New York might have been talking to him, replay was talking to him. They were talking amongst themselves. So
Too many people in the air.
And that's the thing. So we have a rule in our crew. What the heck's the word? Now, it's an element in the offseason I can't think. We have a word. So when someone says it, everyone shuts up.
It's your danger word.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's what you do. Because otherwise, like you said, you have 8 people talking over each other, and it's just chaotic. Yeah.
You redeemed yourself, by the way, because you asked Jim that exact same question last time. So I was shaking my head. I was getting ready to get to lay
I was
into you,
leading
but
up.
you
I
you
wanted to
redeemed
reset
yourself.
the table.
No, I gotcha. No, if that was the reason why, then you redeemed
That's
yourself.
100% the
hard,
reason
yeah,
why.
good for you then. All
Jim,
right.
you got to teach these young guys new tricks every now
Hey,
and
I
then.
don't know.
Sure. Whatever. Anyway, so do you have anything else to ask before we get into our debate topic?
I was just curious for you this year. I'm sure there's a great deal of self-evaluation, right, as you go through games. I mean, was there a moment this year where you felt like, I really screwed that up?
Yes.
And what was that?
Yes.
If you don't mind?
I had one game, and it's probably all over the internet because I made sure that I didn't look at anything that week. But yeah, I made a mistake on the field. Ironically enough, I think it was in New Orleans. And so when I talked to my wife when I was coming home, she knew something happened. So she told the kids. So it was probably, again, during a break because they're all home. So when I came home, they were like extra nice to me. So I knew Mom told them to be nice. Yeah. So I do see. I know why I made the mistake, and it'll never happen again. But yeah,
what was the mistake now though?
It was a clock thing.
Okay.
It was a clock thing because I'm a side judge, so I'm responsible for the clock.
Yeah.
We're all responsible, but it's my primary responsibility.
Okay.
And I made a mistake, and luckily, the team that I made the mistake against still won the game. So if they had lost the game, you probably would know exactly what I'm talking about. But in any event, like I said, that you always evaluate yourself. Matter of fact, I was telling my wife, I found a whole bunch of like thumb drives. It was Sunday morning before going to church, and I'm like, what's on these thumb drives? So I found stuff like my kids, their 6th grade book report, whatever.
Yeah.
But then I found all of my self-evaluations from 2010 through 2019 for every single
that's
game.
Cool.
I do them on the plane. So to answer your question, we also, on Sean's crew, we have a self-evaluation spreadsheet every week. So we put plays in even before the graders come back with the grades. We know if we did right or wrong. But yeah, there's a lot of self-evaluation, and it makes you better.
Is that just for you guys, or do you guys get to submit that?
It's just for us. It's just for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just for us. Yeah, and again, the grades come in, and sometimes the graders will say a lot of the same stuff. Other times, but the bottom line is we watched enough film where we sort of know what should or should. We evaluate each other. We'll be like, hey, the guy across the field should have seen that. So we're pretty honest when it comes to that.
That's great you guys do that. I know as a coach I would do that too.
Yeah.
Like afterwards, like, okay, I did this or that.
Yeah,
And sometimes even come back to the girls afterwards. Hey, listen, that's my fault. I screwed this
exactly
up.
Right. You can't make yourself better if you don't do that.
Right.
You can't just put your head in the sand and say, hey, I did great.
You can verify that with your daughter, whether or not I actually did do that.
I will ask her.
No, I agree with him. As coaches, like, it's always good to have, obviously, a dad as a coach, but close knit, and I'm assuming it's the same for us. Like you just said, like checking in on each other, because I know, especially going through either head coach or assistant coach roles, I always ask him like I think I messed up here. Like, what would you have done in this situation or whatnot? Yep. So yeah, that is really cool that you guys do that.
That's good. It's
nice.
You try to make yourself better.
Did your dad ever harass you for doing something wrong on the field?
Oh, yeah.
Say again?
Did your dad ever harass you for doing something wrong?
He does. My father's getting older now, and he's not as perceptive as he was. But like, for example, Sean's father. Sean talks to his father all the time.
Did they arm wrestle?
They don't. I don't know if Sean would win. I don't know if Sean would win that.
I'm just saying, like,
Sean
he doesn't have the
younger.
cannon.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. But it's funny because we'll come to after the locker room after the game, and he'll pick up his phone and he'll have a big long text from his father, and his father will say exactly that. Good call on the RPS, rough on the passer. You missed this, and he values his dad's opinion. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm surprised he's not on TV anywhere.
You know what's funny? So Sean told me he just decided when he retired, he had given enough to football and he'd gotten a lot from it.
Yeah.
He just is not part of it. Yeah. I mean,
so bodybuilding competitions now.
No,
is that what he's doing?
I don't know. I can't speak for that. I don't know.
He's a traffic cop.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he's on the cover of our union directory from last year. So we have an award they give every year. So
nice.
I think he won it last year. He's on the cover of our union directory.
Is that what he gets for winning the award, or?
No, I think that's just what. After you win it, they put you on the cover. Like
cool.
my dad won it 5-6 years ago. Nice. So that's how I know it's current, because I was going to give it to my father. I have 2 copies, and I saw Ed on the cover. It was 2024,
nice.
so I'm going to give it to him.
That's
What's the NIL compensation for that? Just so
Zero.
Zero. You guys need better representation. Or a full-time gig. I don't know what
we
it
give
is,
up our marketing rights. Like we sign them away.
Yeah.
I don't know what we get for them, so that we can't
be influencing in any way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Even internal though, internal the use. I'm just saying.
Hey, I don't know. We don't sell our jersey numbers. If someone wants my jersey number, they're going to just probably take it. They're not going to pay me $100,000 to switch numbers.
I think that's something I might have to do. I just have to start getting ref jerseys and patches with numbers, and I'll just be a ref fan from now on. I'll just root for you guys. It's got to be less painful than being a Cowboy fan.
Well,
that's for sure.
That's a different story.
But yeah, so hopefully you didn't take off the hat quite yet, and you're not completely in off-season mode, because we did have this debate this Thanksgiving with the Cowboys-Giants game, and it's actually a debate that we've had several times. It has to do with the touchdown and the football over the pylon versus being in the end zone. And this happened because, I mean, it was clearly not a touchdown, and I hope you agree with that. But like, Drew Lock had the ball at one point. He was like running the end zone, and his foot kicked it, but the ball was like out of bounds or whatever. So the ball never crossed the end zone,
right.
But the pylon was down. So like, it started a whole debate. Of course, we're in a family, most of Giant fans, so everyone's like, "Oh, that's a touchdown! He knocked down the pylon." And then they come out and say, "Ball never crossed the end zone," and they're like, "That's bullshit!" Like, you can be in the end zone and the ball's not. So like, what is the reasoning behind that? Like, what I mean?
That's a great question. And so first of all, the pylon really has no significance unless it's a loose ball.
Gotcha.
So if the loose ball hits the pylon, it's a touchback, right? But generally, it doesn't matter. So if you're on the ground, like I guess Drew Lock wasn't diving.
He was running. No, he literally like he was running towards the pylon, and somebody I think just got a hand on him to push him. So like his right foot kicked it, and his left foot with the ball was out of bounds before he crossed the pylon.
That is a touchdown because the pylon in that case is extended. Now, if he were not on his feet, if he were diving, he's got to get the ball inside the pylon. If you ever watch clips, guys
they touch the inside.
If they're off their feet.
So the pylon here, he kicked it with his right foot here, and the ball's out
That's
here.
Okay.
So it's out of bounds. You're saying?
No. So they called it a touchdown.
No, they called it out of bounds.
So he was running toward. He kicked the pylon down. We're saying, right?
With his right foot
and pylon, but the ball was out of bounds.
And his left hand out of bounds.
He never got the ball across the end zone.
Not in the end zone. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the other thing is, technically, if he, and I'm not a line of scrimmage guy, obviously, but if the guy, so put it this way, if you have a play in the middle of the field, the 50-yard line, and the guy's going for a first down, where the ball crosses the sideline technically is where the ball is spotted.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the thing that sparked controversy. It's like it almost doesn't matter where your body is. Essentially,
it's the ball.
It's the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is like, what's the reasoning behind that? Just because like the ball
it's
is
the ball. It's the same thing. Like if the ball breaks the plane, it's a touchdown on a quarterback sneak.
Yeah.
Because there's a famous play you might remember. I don't know, back in the early '90s, Vinny Testaverde ran a quarterback sneak against Seattle, and they gave him a touchdown. Because I think the wing guy thought his helmet was the ball. His helmet was over the line. The ball was back here. It cost Dennis Erickson his job because Seattle lost. He got fired.
Oh, the coach.
The old
He was the Seattle. He was the
Yeah.
Seahawks coach at the time. But it was all. And again, it was before replay, I think. So they couldn't tell the ball was back here, but his head crossed the pylon and across the goal line. So in that example, the ball was back here. So it was not a touchdown. It should not have been a touchdown. Yeah.
Interesting. So just as long as the ball's there.
The ball. It's all about the ball. It's control the ball because, like I said before, if you lose the ball and the loose ball hits a pylon, it's a touchback. And that's another rule someone asked me about yesterday. Should that be changed? Because if you drive 99 yards down the field,
love that rule.
And usually if you fumble out of bounds on a 1 yard line, you get the ball back. But if you fumble out of bounds and the ball hits a pylon, it's a touchback. The other team gets the ball.
I love that rule simply because if you lose the ball at that point, it's mostly because you're being careless.
Jackson.
I was going to say that Deshaun Jackson, when he drops it and he fumbles it, I was thinking more of why can't I think of his name? Leon Lett with Beatty, that he punches it out.
Well, do you want to hear a funny story? So last year I had 2 games in a row, and I'd never had this happen in my career, where a guy was crossing the goal line and he dropped the ball. So the first one was in week 7 in Tampa, and we didn't have a pylon camera.
Yeah.
And we'd given him a touchdown. So we had to give him a touchdown. The next week I had the Jets. It was a Thursday night game. They were playing Houston. They actually beat Houston. It was Halloween, I think. And same thing happened. Jets receiver runs, but we had a pylon camera. Yeah. And the camera showed that he dropped the ball before he crossed.
I remember that.
Yeah. So 2 weeks in a row.
Yep.
And 1 week we didn't have a pylon camera, 1 week we did, and that's what made the difference. I think both guys probably dropped the ball before they got in the end zone, but we couldn't prove it in Tampa.
The Jet guy definitely dropped the ball.
Totally.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing to me is the fact that like when they just let that thing drop because they get so, and it really was the first time I ever saw it was Deshaun Jackson. They're watching that. They're like Deshaun Jackson was getting ready to taunt. I think it might have been the Redskins at the time, whatever they're called now. Or it might have even been a Cowboy game, but he literally dropped it, turned around, and started taunting, and they ruled a fumble because it was the Cowboys because the Cowboys picked it up and started running it back.
Okay.
So that was the first time I ever saw it.
I remember standing there while they were reviewing it, and I was talking to the Houston D-backs, and I'm like, when you guys go to the bench, just tell your receivers to celebrate like 3 yards in the end zone. Make it easier.
Yes.
Yeah. Why would you do that on the goal line? Yeah. Exactly.
Especially now that they're doing like the Olympic finish thing where they dip their head in that.
So did you see?
I can't wait for the ball to go flying one time and say that.
Did you see in the Super Bowl last night? So the Eagles what happened. Mahomes fumbled on that play when Mahomes fumbled.
Yeah.
And the guy in the Eagles picked up the D tackle, and he ran toward the goal line, and he tried to dunk it over the crossbar. And I said, that's a foul.
Yeah.
And then they didn't show what happened. Sure enough, it was a foul, and that was the play that Mahomes allegedly got hit in the face.
Yeah.
Because people are saying, well, if Mahomes got in the face, and I said they didn't call it on that because he's sitting on the bench. It's still the Eagles' ball, but they called it, and because he celebrated,
conduct,
and they called it unsportsmanlike conduct because he celebrated, and I guess he couldn't get it over. He affected the goalpost. Yeah.
That's the
You're
play
not
right
allowed
there.
to dunk over the crossbar now?
So you can dunk over the crossbar if you don't affect the crossbar. So if
It's the
you
Tony Gonzalez rule, basically. He
Yeah.
used to dunk all the time.
But
Or
he-
him and Calvin Johnson used to do it all
Yeah.
the time. And then somebody did it and bent the
Yep.
like the goalpost. And
Shaq.
yeah.
Shaq did it.
Yeah, if you affect it, that's what happens. And so there, again, we're looking at it here, I think. But that's when I saw it, I'm screaming at the TV, and people are like, "What are you screaming at?" And that's what I was screaming at. And sure enough, they got it. I don't know who got it because they
This
didn't
is the guy
show a
right
replay
here,
of it.
That
Yeah,
was
watch.
Brandon Graham, too.
Yeah.
Oh, he did what I would have done on a basket.
Yeah. Depends what kind of
That's 10
elevation
feet
you
too,
have.
though.
Right?
So
Yeah.
like they can get up for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, it's there's all these weird rules that again it's philosophy. It's
Yeah.
the kind of thing where the philosophy is that you don't allow that anymore. Yeah.
Nice. Well, now that football season's over, like I said, you're our last episode before our 2-week hiatus in March happens. Any sport you're looking forward? I mean, I know you have 2 girls in college, like you said. They're both at Big Ten and SEC.
Big Ten, SEC,
so
yep, yeah.
that you're
And the
looking
other one
forward-
went to Clemson, who beat Duke the other night, which was
Yeah.
cool.
Oh,
My daughter
wow.
called me. I didn't even know the game
Yeah,
was
wow.
on.
We
I know the game was
that.
on. She's like, "We're gonna beat Duke." So I turned it on. I saw the celebration, the kids storming the court. Yeah.
has
Jim,
really
I'm
nice
so
having
happy you
on
brought
him,
that up.
so,
He's a
I
huge
mean,
Duke fan.
Are you really?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, why did Cooper Flag slip on the floor? I mean, don't
Dad, you want to talk about conspiracy theories? I don't think they cleaned the floor that well. To be
I know,
honest
at
with you.
Clemson, no less.
I
Yeah.
think that they were slacking on the cleaning of the floor. So yeah. No.
I think the stage was too big for the freshman that night.
well,
so.
He's actually
done
had
pretty well.
3
Yeah.
different moments this year where they've had given him the ball in the last second of the game. It's actually the 3 losses Duke has: Kansas,
way.
Kentucky, and Clemson, where he has not successfully converted. So, yeah, it's
Really?
it's a little mini storyline nobody's talking about, but it is definitely in the back of my head for sure.
Well,
as a Duke
they're
fan,
still a
so-
good team, and he's a
Yeah.
phenomenal
Yeah,
player.
he
Yeah,
is.
it's So I mean, I'm psyched, like you said, for the March Madness,
Yeah.
and so my buddy from college, my college roommate, comes down every year for the Big East tournament. So I may go into the city. I haven't
right.
done that in years. So yeah, this is a lull the next couple of weeks, but then
Yeah.
when we get into March, it'll
That's
kick
exactly
back
why
in.
we take our time off.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
gotta-
you're
I
smart,
gotta
you're
enjoy
smart,
it.
yeah.
Any team you're pulling for in March?
No, so my Indiana's terrible, like I said.
Yeah.
For them, they're terrible. They're 14-10. I guess Mizzou's pretty good because
Yeah.
my daughter, who goes there as a freshman, said they beat someone. She was at the game the other night. Now they did lose recently, so you always pull for the schools where you're paying the tuition.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, if
That's
I'm paying
fair.
them,
That's a good
somebody-
point, yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Of course.
So we'll see how that goes.
All right. Well, we do have one last segment, and it's something we've been doing. And I forgot to bring my laptop, to be honest with you. It'd be much easier to see. But we've been spinning a wheel.
Okay.
And it's a number wheel.
Okay.
For over the last X amount of episodes. We started this with episode 100. And it's basically, it lands on a number, and you get to pick. It's a debate. We, like, spitfire, first come, first serve. We each have to pick a player corresponding with that number.
Okay.
And you try to pick the best one to wear that number.
All right, makes sense.
So you don't have to be football. I don't know if you can do that, but I know the screen's small.
Yeah.
So stick with me here.
Okay, yep.
But
Oh, I got no shot at that.
the number will pop up, and here we go. It's spinning now.
You're on a 5-second delay.
Wheel. No. We already did that. I can't even see. Oh, it was almost 52.
52.
CC Sabathia. Boom. Let's go.
Okay.
Was Ray Lewis 52?
Oh,
He was
snap.
52. What a great
Wow.
pick. That is a good pick.
I always
Man,
struggle
you're-
with these early. 52. There's nobody going to be better than Ray Lewis.
I mean,
first of
CC Sabathia is arguable. I'm
No,
willing.
he's- no, he's
I'm
not.
willing to debate that, and I'm ready to go.
They're
Yeah.
both in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, this is
yes,
true.
Yeah,
This is true.
Yeah.
That was going to be my lead argument. Jim's taking out my lead argument. I have no more. So
all. Yeah, I can't really think of a 52 right now.
can't think of the
No,
best player to wear 52.
No.
No, I'm struggling. Struggling with that.
I think you might be getting a little help here.
A little help from my friends.
Yeah. Oh, according to a little Reddit poll, CC Sabathia is the favorite. Though, so,
Okay, I'll defer to you. I'll let you win that one. So.
Yeah. Well,
No
yeah,
way.
I would argue that.
First of all,
What? First of all, what?
Ray Lewis is an absolute killer.
No pun intended. No pun intended. Yeah.
No pun intended. Oh, you know what? I'll go with Mike Webster from the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's,
All right.
that's a nice
he
help.
was, yeah.
He was an early bench presser of over 500 pounds.
Patrick Willis, underrated. Should be in the Hall of Fame. Not in the Hall of Fame. 100% phenomenal linebacker for the Niners back in the day. Late 90s, early 2000s. I think he retired early due to health reasons, but, oh, man, he was a beast. Clay Matthews is another good one. We struggled during this time doing this because a lot of it defers to football because of the mindset we're in. But I was able to pull CC out because
the name toward the bottom, Dequell Jackson, reminds me of the skit from
from Key and Peele. Yeah.
Have you ever heard that one?
Yeah.
A-Raw.
Yeah.
Dequell, Jaqueline.
So you don't want to stand on your soapbox and fight for Ray Lewis here?
I'm not a. He retired before I got in the league. I'm not a Ravens fan. I'm not a Ray Lewis fan. So I'll let you. I'm actually a closet Yankee fan. So
I have deferred to Yankees because of the heart thing. So I tend to go Yankees for a lot of these. Like I went with Tanaka the other day with 19, and he wasn't even close to being. He went with Tony Gwynn, and I was just like I went with Tanaka and Miles Austin as like my 19 pick, and
because of the Cowboys.
Yeah, and they were nowhere close, but especially when he struggled with that one and mentioned Tony Gwynn, I was like, oh, I lost this one, but I'm not gonna let him know that until now, obviously. But yeah,
I guess it's funny because when you actually do that live and you can see the wheel, you start to think of numbers and you have some locked and loaded, and then it just clicks over to
some random number comes up. Yeah,
who is that? And some is like an offensive lineman or a hockey player.
Yeah, those numbers. Okay.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, Ray Lewis was so. See, the way we like to do it, because it's hard to compare against sports, right? Like, you got to see what them meant more to, like, and Ray Lewis, I think, meant more. I mean, it's tough. Yeah. It's tough because I'm going to say this about my guy, CC. I don't know if Ray Lewis would have done what he did. He gave up $500,000 to hit a guy for his teammate. That's right. One of his last starts just to, like, set the precedent. Like, you don't mess with our guy.
Yeah. That's right.
So, I mean, if you're going to pick one of the best guys to wear it, he's a team guy and an individual guy, Cy Young Award winner, Hall of Famer.
No, listen, I'll give you CC, and I can guarantee the guy that he hit did not charge the mound.
He's skinny now, so none of the jokes that we used to have for him works. He's no longer Chunky Charlie or Charleston Chew. It's just CC Sabathia. But no, Jim, as always, we really appreciate you coming on. Last time you gave us hats, and like I said, I told you before, we had ordered hats. Hats aren't here yet. Again, whether it's weather in this area or whatnot, they just haven't arrived. But I found the skinny from one of your daughters about what your drink of choice is.
Did you say I like to drink? I was trying to tell
No, but we got you. I'm gonna put it this way so we're not free advertising. Right there.
No, I do drink this. Yes.
Only during the off season.
I heard you drink a little of this with it.
Yes.
So
she knows me well. Thank you.
Enjoy your holiday or off season with some nice adult beverages.
I guess the question is, when I come back, will this bottle be empty?
Yeah, that's the challenge.
Is that my challenge? I can do that.
Should 100%. I wasn't sure. See, the other option was I like a good old vodka seltzer combo, but I'm like the pre-made type of guy with the new era of vodka seltzers.
Yes, yeah. No, I like mixing my own.
There you go.
That way you can make it as strong or as weak
that's fair.
You want. Yeah.
I'm a sucker for the and this I will free advertise for them, but the High Noons. I'm a hardcore High Noon lover.
You want to hear a crazy story?
Almost got you that.
There's a drink called Quirk. And they only sell it like in Missouri and I don't know, Kansas. So I told Rachel to get some. You can't buy it around here.
Yeah.
So I want to taste it. It's one of those pre-mixed things.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it's called Quirk. Yeah.
All right, so your daughter out there needs to grab you some.
She does. She's underage, but I think
maybe we can get my cousin. She lives in Kirkwood, Missouri.
Yeah, I want to say like Missouri, Kansas, and see, look, it's on the screen. See? Yeah. So you can buy it. I don't know what it tastes like, but you can buy it. Yeah.
Quirk Fizz Pack.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's a hard seltzer, huh?
Maybe they'll be a sponsor for us. And they can get out here.
There we go. Yeah, we'll
I'll see what I can do.
We'll try to get them for you. Yeah, that's it. Cool.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. Hopefully, you've enjoyed it and you're ready to go for next year. You get a whole year off from us too.
That's
so
fine with me.
You need that much time?
No, not at all.
Yeah, you're always on. You're more than welcome on anytime. But yeah, we appreciate
Thanks.
you at the end of the season to wrap things up for us. Obviously, you can't make predictions for winners, but predictions for how you guys will do in 2026.
I think we'll do well.
Perfect.
Knock on wood. That's all that matters in my mind.
By you mean the Chiefs, right? Okay.
No. I mean the 125 NFL officials.
I apologize. No, all right. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Give our best to your family.
I will, of course. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. And like I said, I'll put that